I'm a newcomer. First question, I read that your temple follows the teachings of Mahayana Buddhism. What does this encompass? A Zen Buddhist practice is part of your tradition, for example, you need about 5 years to explain all that. Zen Mahayana Buddhism encompasses a lot. We have the 3 canons in Mahayana Buddhism. The Vinaya canon, which is the morality canon, and the Samadhi, the meditation part, and also in the sutras part. So there's so many, there's billions and billions of Chinese characters, there's billions and billions of other languages, English, to explain that. I think you can easily get it from the internet, from internets about what Mahayana Buddhism encompasses. But then, a Zen Buddhist practice is part of a tradition. Maybe I just explain very generally. There was a historical Buddha 2,600 years ago by the name, he was a prince, and his name was Siddhartha Gautama in India. He became an ascetic, and he went on to his search for enlightenment, for understanding, for nirvana, and he was successful in reaching that point of nirvana where he understood the truth and where he introduced Buddhism to the world. And he was called Buddha Sakyamuni. And that was a historical Buddha, which means that it was written in history. It's a truth that that Buddha existed 2,600 years ago in the history of mankind. And then when Buddha Sakyamuni awakened, we call it, or obtained bodhi, or obtained complete enlightenment, he was thinking of, because when you attain enlightenment, that means you are out from life and death. You have, I use that word, sublimated yourself from all these desires, and you go to a very high level where you are in perfect nirvana. You are away from life and death, away from mental afflictions. In that state, we call nirvana. And he was thinking, after he shed off this body, because one still has to die when you carry a body, he entered that nirvana stage where he had complete enlightenment, and that would be the end of it, which is good. In other words, you could have gone, you already have gone to a level where there's complete enlightenment. It's good for you, all happiness. But then he was thinking, I should stay behind. I should tell all my folks how to do that so that they can transcend migration. They can go beyond transmigration. They can go beyond suffering. He wanted, it's just like someone who walked out from a forest of desires and wild animals and miseries. He walked out from the forest already. He was completely safe. And it was okay. Oh, I'm safe. But then he walked back and he drew out the map and tell everybody, folks, there are ways to get out from this forest. He walked back to the forest and said, folks, I got a map for you. I know how to get out from this prison, this forest. Follow this path and you'll be out. And that's Buddhism. So there's a path, a big path to walk out from that forest. When Sakyamuni Buddha got enlightened and introduced Buddhism to the world, the map, he didn't classified it into sects and clans and different schools, philosophies. No, he didn't classify that. It's the later philosophers, for the sake of easier understanding, classify into 8, some people classify into 10 schools of practices and philosophy. One being Zen meditation, Pure Land, Tiantai, esoteric Buddhism, and a lot more. There's 10 paths, 10 ways. Why did later philosophers classify that? For the sake of easy understanding. Some people like to understand Zen more. Some people like to understand chanting more. So there's different ways of achieving at the same destination. It's just like in that map, to walk out of the forest, there's only not just one road. Shakyamuni Buddha point out a big wide path to walk out from the forest. And the later philosophers and later very high level wise men who follow the Buddha's path and who knew the way, try to design other ways of getting to that destination. It's just like if you come to Richmond, is there only one road coming to Richmond? If Richmond being your destination. There are many roads coming to Richmond. Don't just say one road going to Richmond. There's a road that is congested, but it still gets there. There's a road which is narrower. There's a road which is wider. You can take Oak Street Bridge. You can take, Canby. You can take Granville. I mean, there's not just one road going to Richmond. There's so many roads going to Richmond. It also depends on where you live. If you live somewhere, with that road will be closer for you. So what do you mean by that? It means there are expedient ways tailored to your background on all the different schools of Buddhism. So there's Zen Buddhism, where people like to practice meditation. There is the chanting, esoteric Buddhism, who likes to use chanting as what? As a sound meditation. Some people want Zen as a consciousness meditation. Some people like to chant as a chanting, a sound meditation. Or if we use modern language, there's consciousness therapy. There's sound therapy. It's just the different names that you use. We don't stigmatize names. It's the meaning of it. So there's even walking meditation. Other than sitting silent meditation, there is walking meditation, sound meditation, a lot more. So there's so many roads leading to room. Room didn't have just one road, one way, so many roads. That's the reason why they broke it down into different traditions. And some people want to say, okay, different about 10 schools of thought, 10 school of practices. Why don't we further summarize it into 2? We call it the Mahayana and the Hinayana. It's just people's efforts to classify them, not the Buddhist method, which is good too. There's not just one road going to Richmond. Because why did the later philosophers and practitioners design different roads? Because they were in life, they were in their daily activities. They know which way is better for other people. So if you're not used to Zen, you shouldn't practice the Zen way. If you're used to chanting, you practice the chanting way. That's just logical, right? So, is that part of the tradition? No tradition is better than the other or worse than the other. Don't criticize. Don't criticize other tradition. This is good, this is not as good. You are discriminating. Don't criticize. Can you criticize that Oak Bridge Road is not good? And always go by Granville? What happens if Granville has a big blockage in road construction? You can't get here. So you can't discriminate all these different roads and you take Western Road. If you stick just on the Oak Street Bridge, then sometimes you may suffer because that could be under construction. Because that's under construction, you say, I'm not going to Richmond. Is that your intention? If Oak Street Bridge is under construction, you say, I am not going to Richmond because Oak Bridge is under construction. Then you go by Granville. You have to have that changeability in your mind, the flexibility in your mind. That's logical. So don't criticize other traditions. Every tradition is good, as long as it's geared towards the mind, not geared towards what you can receive. Oh, these traditions can give you health. These traditions can give you wealth, happiness. These traditions can give you anything you want. There must be a problem in there. Because that tradition increases your greediness, your attaching, your craving. Everything is from the mind. If you use a strong attachment to crave for more, that's not what the Buddha is talking about. You're away from it. That's exactly why you should be away from it. So how should I tell you? It takes a long time, but to understand it, don't say that one tradition is better than the other. It's all from your mind. No ears, no tongue, no taste, no body, no mind. Nothing. If there's nothing, so what does that mean? Thoughtless? If there's nothing, something will come up. And that's what we call, quote unquote, wisdom. The more you're detached, the more you have nothing, the more you shut off your greediness, your hatred, your anger, your jealousy, the more you let go of that. Oh, I don't have hatred anymore. I don't have anxiety anymore. What does that mean? You're working towards it. You're shutting off all these you should not want, you should not have. But you may be thinking, oh, I lose my anger, I lose my anxiety, I lose my self-respect. It is exactly the self-respect you attach to that increases your ego. All right, that's enough for this. Otherwise, I can go on and on. Okay, next question. Venerable, I have a 12-year-old son. He was bullied at school for many years. Now this is better, but his classmates are not nice to him and he gets upset. What advice would you give to help him better deal with these issues? I think you should talk to the teacher, not me. I'm not the teacher. I don't understand the situation thoroughly. So this question should be directed to the teacher who understands the kid, or direct to the school. And what should you tell him? I can only give you general advice. Tell him to forgive. Tell him to put up the tolerance, the perseverance. Tell him that if you build up that power of forgiveness, that's the stronger person. Only the hero can forgive. The coward will always fight back. The power comes from perseverance, from tolerance, forbearance, forgiveness. You may, on the surface, you may be timid, but internally you already built up your power to resist suffering. You know what's the result in putting up tolerance? Oh, I'm timid. Actually, you're building up your power to receive suffering. As I said earlier in the hall, in most cultures, we always want the objective of being happy, of living to be happy. But many people have enough to live by, but nothing to live for, because they don't know the meaning of life. They all have the means of living, but no meaning. Because you just react according to your emotions. If you're always in search of the meaning, they'll build up your power to receive, to tolerate the suffering. And life is a tolerance of suffering. And there's a very good book that maybe you can search. It's not a religious book. It's not a Buddhist book. It's called Man in Search of Meaning. It's by Frankl. Frankl. He was a survivor of the concentration camp. It's the meaning of life that sustained him to live on. He was a doctor. He almost died on many, many occasions. But he was able to live on because he had the meaning. He was looking for the meaning of life, and he sustained the search for that meaning. And he told all his readers that all those who want to be happy, they all died. Because in the search for the meaning, you build up your strength to resist or to endure suffering. That was the reason why he was able to have a lot of strength in putting up all this suffering that no other person, average person, can endure. So I don't know what else I should tell you. Ask the teacher what to do with this. Thank you for the Dharma lunch volunteers and donors who first discovered the alaya consciousness of karma, the depository. Who first discovered it? Well, if I tell you Mr. A discovered it, does it help you? Mr. A discovered that. It does not matter who discovered it. I don't know who discovered it. Even if it's not discovered, it's still there. So why do we have to concern about who discovered it? Let's say the Buddha discovered it, or there must be some people who discover it who already have benefit from it. But the Buddha who discovered it and he wanted to benefit others, that's the reason why he introduced Buddhism to the world. So the discoverer who discovered it, bring it to you, whoever discovered it. So who discovered it? Alaya consciousness. Discover it doesn't mean that it does not exist before. It's not an invention. Like an invention, nothing's like that been invented before. Now you invented it. You started from nothing, invented it, but it's always there. Who discovered space? Space is always here. Who discovered it? Space has always been around. Nobody discovered space. I always give that example. Some people say, I dig a hole in the ground to store something, 10 feet by 10 feet. There was no hole before. Now I dig it, and I can use it as storage. I discovered that hole, 10 feet by 10 feet. I discovered that space. You go away, I discovered it first. It does not matter what you discover. The space is always there. You just make a hole in the space. The space is always there. You just excavated the soil and you call it your own discovery. It always exists there. Timeless. Next question. Has the modern science confirmed the existence of alaya consciousness? As I said, it's always there. Have scientists discovered your consciousness? You mean if the scientist didn't tell you that he's discovered your consciousness is not there? Do you feel your own consciousness? Does it have to be discovered? Modern science confirmed the existence of alaya consciousness. Does modern science confirm the mind? I'm sure modern science confirms the mind. The mind is consciousness, right? It's just another word of calling it. Who discovered the mind? You tell me, who discovered the mind? It does not matter who discovered it, but people can explain it. People can research and explain more details into how the mind works. But the mind is always there. It does not matter how you discover, how you analyze it, the mind is always there. So why do you have to confirm? Has modern science confirmed the existence? Modern science has confirmed the existence of the mind. Who discovered it? I don't know. Who discovered the mind first? I don't know. Who analyzed the mind in some details in his own way? Many. Sigmund Freud, Kant, Aristotle, you name them. All these philosophers, they discover methods to extrapolate, to tell you what the mind is all about. Whether they are right or wrong, they could be right in some situation, they could be wrong. But the mind is there. Is the alive consciousness the same as the soul? Well, if you want to call it, it can be the same as the soul. The alive consciousness is a polluted consciousness, and the soul is the polluted consciousness. If you call it the soul, yes, you can call it the soul.